There is an inherent difference between that which is aesthetically pleasing and that which is very functional. And one of those things that is a very divisive topic would be algae. Many people look at algae and say, that's a sign of a tank that needs to be cleaned, because they believe the tank needs to be absolutely pristine. The water needs to be as clear as glass. But the reality is, without that algae, you are missing out on a bunch of essential food for every sort of creature that eats it, especially shrimps. Now, the water can be nice and clear, and you can do things like add plants. And those plants will basically be there as surface area for algae and biofilm to grow on. And all the little scrimperdoodleos, they're relatively happy with that. But there is another way. And today I'm going to be talking about a type of algae that most people absolutely despise, and I did too at one point. Until I realized it's very functional, despite its aesthetically displeasing looks. Green bush algae and red bush algae. This particular tank is covered in the stuff, and there are ways to get rid of it. Whether it be chemical, like hydrogen peroxide, which will definitely kill it, or certain creatures, which will eat pretty much any algae, including the bush algae. But, if you notice, a lot of the shrimps, they pick at it because it's fuzzy. Biofilm grows on it. The food that shrimps love to eat grows on it, and honestly, it doesn't negatively affect the tank. It's weird. It's definitely one of those things that, if you didn't know what it was, would kind of make you question what the heck is going on here. But, for all intents and purposes, it's basically free food. And it grows everywhere, and these little guys just seem to love it. So, how does one get this type of algae in the first place? Well, this type of algae, from what I understand, typically only grows in very hard water. The water in my fish tanks is exactly that. Very hard water. Comes directly from my well. So, if I wanted to get rid of it, I would have to use water that's not so hard. I'd have to go through some filtration processes before I add the water to my tank to prevent this. That being said, it's not like every one of my tanks has it. The main reason why this tank doesn't really have a bunch of it is because these shrimps, this tank, my neon yellows, and you see they eat them because that's poop. They eat a lot. These guys poop really hard. But not every tank has it. In fact, this is the only tank that has it because there are very, very few shrimp in here. Now, as someone who breeds shrimp, you would imagine I would probably have a ton of shrimp. And that would be doubly the case because this is actually my oldest colony that I currently have. A long time ago, I had this weird colony collapse that affected a lot of my tanks, and these girls were the ones that survived everything. A lot of their fellow neon yellow shrimp buddies, well, they didn't make it. However, eventually things stabilized, and I had about 20 shrimp in here, but the chances of breeding them basically went to nothing because they're all the same sex. And I just decided that instead of using them as breeding stock, I didn't want to do that. I just want to let these girls live out the rest of their life in the tank that they were raised in, and the tank that they were born in, and just enjoy themselves. Because you know what? I can always stock this tank with another set of yellow shrimps and start over. That's not a big deal. Especially now that this tank is matured in terms of its age and biocultures and microorganisms and such. It's not going to be hard to just put a new set of shrimp in and start breeding from there. But I just wanted to point out some stuff about algae and some things that I've noticed, and why sometimes this type of algae grows, and why it's not a bad thing. Oh yeah, it's unsightly. I mean, you look at it and you're just like, what the heck? But I can tell you one thing, the shrimps friggin' love it. They just eat it and just go about their way. So, I haven't had to feed this tank in months. They just naturally have food growing. But, in about, possibly within a year, because these girls are already near the end of their lifespan. They've been with me for over 2 years now, which is about the average age lifespan of these dwarf shrimps anyway. So, that's why I'm just waiting them out, letting them enjoy their life. I don't want to put them through the stress of being a breeding stock again. These little girls get to just live and enjoy themselves.